Hello, everybody, and welcome to Lorcanarama. And Jake, how are you, my man?
I'm good. How are you, Kelsey?
I'm doing great. Welcome back. As you guys can tell, Sabrina is MIA again. Well, we know where she's at, so she's enjoying life right
Still
now.
in Bologna.
Yeah. So you know what? If you get that once in a lifetime trip, you better take advantage of it, right?
She's taking it all
So
in. Good on
I
her.
want to welcome everybody to joining us tonight. We have a special guest on. We have with us Zach, otherwise known as Fast Action Hamlet. He is a creator of a Emerald Steel variant deck known as Jazz Hands, and with Emerald Steel finishing in the top four in Bologna. Not Zach. He didn't do it. He made sure that I told everybody that was Bruno who did that, right? I decided, I reached out to Zach, and here we are. So Zach, welcome to Lorcanarama.
Make sure I'm unmuted. Yeah. Thanks
Yeah.
for having me. It's really exciting to be here. Lurcon is my favorite thing to talk about. So,
Oh,
yeah,
ours too.
yeah,
Yep.
it'll be lots of fun.
We found a way to do 28 episodes of talking about Lorcana. So,
Right?
it's been a lot of fun.
Say.
Yep. So tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at Bruno's list. For those of you joining us, I want to welcome you. If you're in the chat, feel free to just drop us questions, comments. If you're not following us already, please do that. We don't really keep track of how many people follow us, but I can tell you this: we're so close to 100 followers. We're like this far away, this far.
So
Yeah.
close.
I didn't even think we'd make it four. So, but I have to tell you this. So as I said, champs this weekend, and I sat across with somebody. He goes, "Yeah, I listened to your stream. Your podcast this week." I go, "You did?" I was like,
No way. That's awesome.
somebody listened to us. So, which is great. We have our ups and downs with it, but, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And our topics vary. And tonight we're doing a deck tech. So that's pretty cool. Hey, there we go. Crazy Asian in the chat. Mike, hey, next time I see you, which I'm not sure if it's going to be this weekend, I got to get a picture because I made it a point that if anybody ever came up to me and told me that they listened to the show, I'd get a picture with them and I'd share it on the stream so folks could see it.
You gotta do that.
But I was so awestruck that somebody actually did it. I forgot to get the picture. So, and then we made good trades. Sure. Then we made some good trades. So, so yeah. Okay, so back to the topic at hand here. So we're going to talk about Emerald Steel Chronicon. If you don't know about that deck, well, shame on you. You're missing out playing on one of the most fun decks that I've ever played with. Now, I'm an Emerald Amethyst player. I really want Chronicon to work with Emerald Amethyst, but I'll take Emerald Steel. So it's second best for me.
There is a Chromicon that works in Emerald Amethyst, but it's a pretty different kind of deck.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Different Chromicon.
Yeah, different Chromicon.
Yeah. But anyways, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull up real quick the screen, and what I'm showing on the screen right now, and I'll give it a chance for it to show up on the screen here for Zach to see, is the deck that finished in the top four at DLC Bologna, piloted by Bruno. I think you say his last name Hink. At least that's what we have up there. We just say Bruno. And Bruno finished in the top four. And if you guys didn't watch those streams, then you were missing out. So, Zach, why don't you talk a little bit about the evolution of this deck from your standpoint and Bruno's deck here. We're just going to let you kind of fly for a moment here and do your thing. So.
Yeah. So, I've been playing card games, since I was a kid. I've played Magic, on and off, since oh man, like 2000, 1999, and, on and off in the competitive field. I've always loved deck building, and you know, I've been doing some deck building in Lorcana. I've been um, working with some different kinds of like blue steel, like before the Hiram and Fortisphere ban, and a bit of amber steel stuff going on. But after rotation was a really exciting time, right? Because it's a whole new, fresh, clean slate, right? So during this time, I was just like spoiler season. The last cards were spoiled, and it's like, okay, like what's here, right? So I was really into, because I was really into like Bobby and Mulan and like Yzma at first, and I was convinced that like with Doc and with Desperate Plan, like there's something here, right? Like we're able to like draw, like keep the cards flowing, like there's no be prepared, there's no Sisu, we can like go wide, we can't be punished, really, in green we have Ursula, so if we ever needed to, if people ever start playing Under the Sea, we have that. So I was convinced, I was like, but unfortunately, like Desperate Plan is really bad. It's just not a good card. um Disappointingly, because I love like cards like that. But we have Doc, and we have Doc as a body, which is really important, right? So I was playing these Desperate Plan decks, and I was like, okay, we can discard extra ones. We could play like the new Jasmine, we could play Namari, we can like cycle through our deck, we can discard extra Desperate Plans, like make it good. We can't make it good. It's just like it's not there yet, right? So, but during that time, I ended up playing like one of Chromacon in this deck because I had like an extra uninkable slot. I was like, okay, this is actually pretty good in this kind of like faster, like aggro, like tempo deck that I'm playing. And every time I drew it early, it was like busted. It was just like I'm just like winning every game against Blurple. Like all anybody's really playing is Blurple, right? So like and I'm like, oh, this card's like crazy. What if I like build around this card, right? So I ended up building this version. At first I was like still on like one or two Desperate Plan, and after a while I cut it, and I moved to like playing like Clarabelle, like the 1-drop Clarabelle and the 7-drop Clarabelle, and tried to like essentially work with that and Doc to fuel the engine of the deck, and around them play like this really fast, like sort of aggro tempo deck, right? And it came to my attention that's like, oh, like Doc is actually the most important card in this deck, like along with Chromacon, and Chromacon is actually a draw engine with the Doc, right? Because if you can create situations where people like your opponent like has to challenge your characters, like if they can't ignore the Chromacon and just quest themselves, then you are able to just bounce your Doc every turn. You're drawing 2 cards a turn, like every turn you're flooding the board, like you're totally overwhelming the opponents. And you're also like against Blurple, very importantly, you're like sending their threat, their stuff all back to hand as well, right? So it sort of developed, through there, and refining from there this deck that was like essentially just like, this steel tempo deck with like cards that we've been seeing. But the important cards, and what I consider to be the core cards of this deck, kind of have always more or less been there, except for Lewis. Lewis was a little bit of a later addition that was like really important, obviously, and we'll talk about that. But like, it's basically
Turned into
Bobby,
a staple at that point.
Yeah. So it's like Bobby, Mulan, Merfolk, Captain Hook, Calhoun, Doc, and Chromacon, basically, were the core of this deck originally. And I think I include Prince Philip in there, honestly, because Prince Philip is like a really important card to like finish out the game, and it's like it's our goat in this deck. Like it's our way of just like guaranteeing that we can like get that lore at the end of the game if an opponent has taken control. But essentially, these are the cards that like allow the function of the deck, and like the core cards I consider like you can't like go below 3 copies, and definitely can't go below 4 copies of Doc and Chromacon. They're really important, and you could argue that for Bobby, Mulan, and Merfolk as well. They're like really important to the deck.
Awesome.
So I'm going to just say something real quick. Jake, you have to take the reins for a moment.
For
I'm
sure. You
distracted.
got it.
I'm single dad there right now, and I got a child here who is in dire straits. So I'm gonna sit here while you carry on. I will return, folks. I am very sorry.
Yeah, good luck.
No worries. That sounds good. Yeah, this deck that he built and I guess turned from your deck into this one to be able to go to top 4, it felt like almost more of like maybe like an aggro approach, I guess, but it's controlling at the same time. It's very, very interesting, and I think that the addition of the Heathcliff as well, I feel like throwing that in there makes it almost just having more Prince Philip and just having more stuff that's uninteractable and just you can't really deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the Fred, the Philip, the Heathcliff, the Go-Go, Tamago. It's all very
Mm-hmm.
consistent what it's trying to do. But I will say on that matter, it would ostensibly be an aggro deck, right? We're looking at
Yeah.
like fast, slow curve. We're seeing, Chromacon in there, which is a card that like when you look at it, it's just like, okay, like the opponent, like its weakness is that if the opponent is in the position to ignore it, you just played a card that does nothing, right? And so
Yeah.
that's bad. So, the deck needs to facilitate, its engine and the Chromacon. It needs to be both like an offensive and defensive card, like when
Mm-hmm.
it's good, when it's optimized, right? So the rest of the deck is built to like facilitate that, right? But we look at like the deck and we look at this list and we look at like basically any of these lists, and you notice that also you have cards like Lewis and Calhoun and this Jafar here, Fire the Cannons,
Mm-hmm.
Pete. These are defensive. Oh, Captain Hook too. Like these are defensive cards, right? So it's not simply an aggro deck. It's like this aggro control list. It's like kind of a true tempo deck, right? But it is also built around this really powerful um, card draw engine with Doc and Chromacon as well. So your main sort of protection, like stacks sort of card, like denial card that is stopping the opponent from being able to respond to your stuff. Also is what's fueling your card draw, because with your dock in play, you can, if they are not able to remove the dock before they remove one of your characters, then you get to bounce the dock. And it's really strong because you have the option, right? You get to choose what to bounce, and so you can play always one step ahead of the opponent. They have to really, really think hard about their sequencing, and one mistake can really, really cost them. It can cost
For
us as
sure.
well,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a really punishing deck to play. This is a really tough, deck to play, because you also really need to know your matchups. You really need to know what seat you're playing. And like a fundamental understanding of this deck is a fundamental understanding of how to play a tempo deck, and also an understanding of whether you are the beatdown or the control player. I don't know if the audience is familiar with the 1999 article by Mike Flores, "Who's the Beatdown?" It was an article written for Magic the Gathering, but it was like it applies to Lorcana, even though there's like there's a bunch of references to like pre-modern Magic and like like specific cards. Basically, the root of the article is that like you need to understand in your seat, like whether in your matchup with, or if like whatever you are, like however you're teched, versus like the mirror match, who is the person is um who's the person who's the aggro player, who's the person
Who's
who's
putting their foot on the
yeah,
gas and who's
exactly, who's control, right? And that
for
changes
sure.
for matchup and it changes for us, right? We're not always an aggro deck, and therefore Chromacon is not always good. It's not always a
Mm-hmm.
card that we care about playing. And so understanding your matchup, understanding your seat, whether you're beat down or control, and then also understanding the defensive and offensive phases when you are in a matchup where you need to play the control seat, because there is a certain point where you also need to change gears and start to pull forward in offense.
Mm-hmm. When you first added the Chromacon, did you initially want to bounce back their stuff, or did you kind of then realize where you could bounce your own stuff at that point too?
Yeah, I always knew you could bounce it because there was a set 5 championships that I won where I was playing green steel. no, not green sail. I was playing green purple, emerald amethyst, and it was I think it was like LD's version where like it had the one of Chromacon in it, and it was like it was a Merfolk deck, and it was a much more like aggressive sort of like Delver, version of green purple, and it ran the Chromacon, and I remember thinking like whenever like this card was good, it was like incredibly good, and I remember like playing against Ruby Amethyst and like bouncing my own goat with the Chromacon when they like
that's just your own bounce right there.
like yeah, it was just like it was nuts, and so I always remember this card being like I liked playing with it. Like it was a card that had a lot of possibilities. But then originally it was like, yeah, I want to like bounce my opponent's stuff. Like, if you were able to kind of play like triple one drop into Chromacon, you end up with a very commanding position because you're essentially able to just like quest out every turn and you force them to respond to you, right? And then it became apparent you could bounce your own dock. Like, I don't know if it was like more a revelation or if I had like the hunch from the beginning, because I always knew you bounce your own stuff with it, right? But like definitely the dock was like an incredibly important thing. It's like, oh yeah, one of those moments like, oh, this is actually like incredibly powerful, and
really
you can
good.
also a lot of the time just bounce your own dock instead of bouncing their own stuff. It's like often better, right? And like they still have to remove stuff. Like you can bounce the dock first, and then they remove one of your guys.
And then you can start bouncing their stuff
When you bounce their
afterwards.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like a Purple can't win by playing an Elsa for like 3 or 4 turns in a row. Like they just can't like replay that Elsa every turn. Like and it
Exactly.
means they can't bell, to heal the Elsa and kill one of my banish one of my characters, right? So it ends up coming together really well. But the the essential thing like to understand is like with this, you need to like be always sort of playing to board. You're always sort of playing and keeping more material on board than the opponent, so that you are always able to stay ahead in tempo. When it comes to when you are like taking that offensive, whether you're start of the game as control, or you're playing against like a deck where you can't ever assume the control seat, like Blurple or like Green Blue. You essentially are like always in that offensive phase, and you're throwing away your defensive cards. But yeah, the Chromacon essentially is a way for us to like it changes the dynamic of the game. So yes, like the opponent can like commit to board, but they are oftentimes unable to race me because I'm playing such a low curve, right? And so they are forced into a position where they need to challenge my characters and then get them bounce back, right? One of the things also that kind of led to like the understanding of this deck and really like kind of believing it from the beginning, is I follow DKP and his masterclass of red blue, and I've talked to him at different times also like about this deck at a certain point, but also like other stuff. And like just one of the things that really stuck with me is that like we can play in a way that forces opponents to make disadvantageous plays for themselves because they have no other choice, right? So like you can make them have to like be prepared, your shark, the shark, that you have on board, because then you could play double mana, right? You can make them have to like respond to your board by playing like a lower curve, by committing more characters to board than them, and by creating a situation where they don't have as many choices, right? And limiting the opponent's choices is kind of what this deck is all about.
So one of the things that I've kind of recognized with this deck, as I go through and navigate various matchups, there are certain cards that I hate to see, from my opponents. Number one being John Silver. I can't. That card, if you haven't gotten wide enough when that comes down, that card could be a nightmare. Lewis, likewise, an opposing Lewis can kind of derail you as well. And we all know that Under the Sea and Hades and those cards kind of circumvent the Chromacon. So to you, like, what cards do you see out there that, like, I know you want to go wide, right? I mean, I've played this deck enough. I know I want to go wide with it to start off with, but I also know that there just sometimes you don't have the dock to keep fueling yourself, right? And then your best strategy is to pray, right? That you top deck win or whatever. And that's when those Lewises and those John Silvers can just wreck you before you get a chance to even recover. So any particular cards out there that kind of are a pain in the butt for this deck for you?
Yeah, definitely John Silver. Calhoun is a really rough card for this deck to see. On the opposing side, yeah, opposing Lewis also. Um, it's essentially cards like that. I mean, yes, like you don't want to see Hades, but at the end of the day, like Hades does cost 7, and you know, we have cards like Heathcliff and Prince Philip in the deck, like for that reason, right? We're
Right.
trying to get to like 15 lore before, 15, 16 lore, and then play our goats, right? Like that, like just like green purple, used to do, right? Like these are the cards that like cannot be interacted with. Under the Sea as well, right? That is a card that we have Ursula for. We have Pete as well. So this deck does have like some toolbox elements, and what's cool about Bobby and Mulan is they offer us so much filter that we can like sort of like find cards that we need, but also they have their filter in that like we can dig deeper to find that next stock, right? If we can assemble like a line of docks, or like a Chromacon plus dock in the matchups where like Chromacon is advantageous to play, and it ends up working out pretty well. But it really it's matchup dependent. As far as that's concerned, like what cards like in there are cards in every deck that you don't necessarily want to see, but we also have like we have a plan more or less for everything. We are and that's why knowing your matchups is so important. So
Yep.
it would be contextual.
One of the things that I like is on the blind. I love when I have any three of Bobby or Mulan in my hand, because by the time turn 2 rolls around, I will know what I'm playing against probably, right? And now I can drop 3 of those, right? Have 3 on the board, and I've been able to filter for the matchup now. If I,
Perfect hand.
yeah, and
Yes.
and so on the blind, it's like always keep those, because they're going to help me. Even if I don't find my Docker Chromacon, they're going to help me dig deeper for it anyways, and put a body on the board, which is pretty neat with them. And
Yeah.
don't underestimate an opening hand fire the cannons against Blurple, because you can take out that Rafiki that just lets you keep on going, or things like
Yeah.
that.
Fire the Cannons is incredible in every
Yeah.
matchup.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
I would call it core if like, but like basically it's not like integral to the function of the deck, but like
Right.
it's as close to a core card as like as any of the other cards I consider core like right now, because it's good into Blurple, it's good into green blue. It's like a time walk versus them. Like they just like can't, it's like a whole other turn before they can like assemble like a sing together combo, or like it's really good into Amber Steel. It's slightly less good into dogs because they have like a bunch of like 0/3 X3s X4s, but like it's still fine. Yeah, it's great. But yeah, the mulligan in the blind is incredibly easy because all you do is mulligan away or alter away cards that are not Bobby, not Mulan, and not one Doc and one Chromacon, right?
Yep.
So you send everything back. Like if you don't have Doc or Chromacon in your hand in the blind, you just only keep Bobby and Mulan, and you send everything else back. And the reason you keep Bobby and Mulan is for a reason that you said, Kelsey, is like you filter your hand, and it's just like you can smooth out your hand and everything. But also, they essentially are an altar themselves, right? They're a 1-drop
Yep.
that represents an altar because you're drawing a card and removing a card, right? So, but it's an altar the other way around, which is better, right? It's an altar where you see the card first and then you get to decide, right? So if you keep as many copies of Bobby and Mulan, as you draw in the first 7 in your hand, you're always gonna be able to, number one, have a 1-drop. You're gonna like probably have like some some ink. You're gonna have ink for the first turn or so, if you do it. But also you give yourself more chances like to find the card you need, right? Like it's um a way to like filter through like the top few cards of your deck to like say you're against an amber deck and you don't like need the offensive cards. You can put away the offensive cards to like find your Lewises and your Calhouns and stuff.
Yep.
And conversely, if you're against Blurple, you can like ditch your Calhouns and like like play towards that. But you're getting yourself closer there, and they're represent an altar but also a 1-drop body, which is important, right? To have those early bodies on the field. And the fact that they filter you is insane. Like these cards are like incredibly good. They like are, if you're able to play like decently with them, like they're like a decent like top deck, like if you have a card in hand, because it lets you filter. Oftentimes like if you draw one and you have no cards in hand, like unless it's dire, you can save it
Yep.
and then play it to like filter the next card you draw. It's like they're incredibly versatile, and they are like so like
Yeah.
powerful, or like so essential to this deck.
So many times when I bounced back one of those in the absence of a dock, and it bounced back my own Mulan or Bobby, because I was like, well, if I don't like the next card I draw, I can at least filter it, and
Yeah,
sure.
and so and it just depends on sometimes how the game is going. I've liked them so much and have enjoyed having them so much that I'm like, well, maybe I should put some Yzmas in now, because that's like a 2-drop version of that, right?
Yeah.
And so I
Just-
haven't gone down that road yet, but I am thinking about it. So because there's a couple games where like I have dug and dug and dug for Chromicon and or Doc and just couldn't find them, and just wanted, I just need a little bit more, and I had 6 of those guys out on the board at one point, no Chromicon or Doc, and I was like, I need more. So
That's just unfortunate.
yeah, it's bound to happen, but we take those
right.
games,
Mhm.
just call it unlucky and go to the next one,
For sure.
We're
No,
about to
man,
break like
I wear those on my sleeve. That's how the deck gets better. So yeah, but go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, like, yeah, every deck can brick, and I feel like we brick kind of less than
Yeah,
a
we
good
do.
chunk of the decks in the format. Like everybody's got to get their thing right. Blurple has to, and Green Blue have to have the turn 2 ram. Green Blue has a way higher brick chance than us, with like so many different like things that like are going on there. And like, yeah, we have somewhere around a 10% chance to brick, but it's hard to even figure out the geometric math on that, because like Bobby and Mulan and like the variables that like go
Yep.
into like those cards, like kind of being played and like in the early turns, like and like throughout the game, and like every time you play one, you've drawn a card, and then like you play another one, like it changes it again, like it makes it really complicated, right? But I think it probably somewhere between like a 5 to 10% chance to like not see either Doc or Chromicon in those like first turns. It's lower than you'd think, but if you need to mulligan for it, right? You need
Yep.
to like prioritize the Docs and the Bobbies and Mulans. You need to like do like an aggressive mulligan. And Green Steel is always mulliganed aggressively, right? We used to just like try to find the Diablo combo. This is the same.
So if you're joining us in chat, we're talking with Zach, otherwise known as Fast Action Hamlet, creator of Jazz Hands. By the way, you haven't even talked about the name you gave the deck and why it's Jazz Hands, right? But yeah, that's an Emerald Steel Chromicon variant. What we have up on the screen is Bruno's deck that finished in the top 4 in Bologna. So feel free in the chat to drop comments, questions for Zach. And one thing I want to pull up before I forget, let me pull this screen up here real quick. Everybody can see it. It's Metafy, Zach, aka August as well. You may see him as that. has a Metafy, and I'm going to put that information in the description of the video once we publish it to YouTube. But before we close out the stream, I'll pull it up on the screen as well for you all to see it, so you can get to that Metafy site. But yeah, jazz hands, man. So I knew what jazz hands was, but it's I don't know that everybody else knows. So why don't you explain the name jazz hands and why that applies to this deck?
Yeah, so it's all explained in the guide, so you can no, I just
Right?
okay, so
No spoilers.
basically no, it's I think I was watching like a Specie stream, and I remember him like remarking that like every time that no matter where I am in the world, every time somebody plays like the last card in hand and they're empty-handed, they all do the same thing, jazz hands. And I never thought of it as jazz hands before. But when you think about it, like there are a lot of people, and maybe this is just anecdotal, right? But like a lot of people, like when they are empty-handed, like when they are passing their turn with no cards in hand, like they'll just show you their palms, right? And it looks like jazz hands. Yeah. So and branding, everybody like wants to play a deck with a fun name like Diggy Diggy Hole and like Baja Blast and like all these people. It was a fun name. I don't think it translated for everybody, so I want to call it Emerald Seal Chromacon and as like the main name of the deck, just like but it's just like a fun thing. Like I feel like when a deck has like a fun name to it, it just like is always like people just
Makes the
like
deck
want
so
to root
much
for
better.
it. And like yeah. So and it's also jazz hands is fun to say and like all that. So that was the thing. But yeah, it's mostly just like because like it's the philosophy of the deck, right? You're playing out all your cards, you're replaying dock every turn, you're trying to play out all your cards and empty your hand. It also like it worked with Clarabelle as well because you were trying to empty out your hand every turn so that you could like draw a bunch of cards, as well off Clarabelle. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think I just want to say this. So I would encourage you folks to support the man and buy the guide. Because I have a few guides. I don't go out there and buy a whole bunch of them. I'm very picky. This one has a lot of good information on it, especially if you don't understand the deck and you're interested in it. One of the things that I really like that you included in it was this deck. Let's back up for a minute. You have to have a fundamental understanding of this deck that there isn't really a core deck list, right? There's some core cards that go in there, Doc, Chromacon, and probably Bobby and Mulan, right? I would say no matter what version of the deck you run, 4 copies of those 4 cards should be in every variant.
You could say Merfolk too because you want to have
Merfolk should be in any Emerald deck.
Any deck anyway.
I even would argue that I would put it in Baja Blast, but I'm just saying. Anyways, Merfolk is it's just the best one drop in the game. So it should be in there. Right. So yeah, you want that. And so, you go beyond that and you start looking at the 2 colors, right? And so you got steel. Well, you're probably going to run 4 strength of the Raging Fire. That's your removal. And then you go from there. And the great thing about Emerald, which I have championed since day one, is it is the best toolbox color that there is in Lorcana. And at that point, it's like you have like the world at your fingertips to just be like this evil mastermind creating this, this wonderful invention that you're going to rule the world with. And so the great thing I like about your guide, I say all that, is because you included a list of cards that could show up in the deck and why they're good and, what role they play and that type of thing. And if anything, the guide is worth it for that to me. But you also give some alter strategies in there. In fact, I'll just show the table of contents for folks in there. You explain how to play the deck, which is great. The card catalog, how to alter, how to play the different matchups. So you did your homework basically you unloaded your mind, right? Which is always cool. But you took the time and you did it and presented it in a pretty decent way. So my hat's off to you on the guide. I think well done.
Thank you. Yeah.
I can't say that about every guide I get, but this one was
Yeah,
pretty good.
I'm endlessly updating it, like minor updates all the time. Like I'll alert the community when there's like a huge like overhaul or like something, But yeah, the card catalog I have shared in there as a Google sheet as well that I'm consistently updating as well. Um, and yeah, just like trying to make sure that I'm keeping it up to date and continue to, throughout the new season, like as set 10 comes around, like, in the Discord where we also have a Discord for this deck as well. Free to join, just it's in a post in the community and we talk about this and as spoilers come out, we're gonna be updating, we're gonna be trying things out, and we're going to just keep at it and see like how if it has game into set 10. I honestly believe as long as they don't reprint Big Sisu, like we're fine, because be prepared, like we have
We can deal
Ursula.
with that. We can deal with
It's
that.
like
Yeah.
as long as they don't reprint Big Sisu or like something like similar, I think that in set 10 we are still live.
Well, I say we could deal with B prep, right? Let me caveat that we do now have a Singer 9 power line that could come down on turn 4, so we might have to learn to deal with it a little bit earlier. So, but anyways, I'm not worried about. You're right. I'm not really worried about it. The main master removal we have is an opponent's Bagheera, who I plan on never attacking anyways and banishing on their turn, and Big Tink still makes an appearance every now and then and can take out, I would say, half of our board, maybe a third. Most of them have two willpower on them, but you do have Merfolk, you do have your Mulans, that only have one. And they seem to always be around at the beginning of the game because we want it to be that way, right?
This deck can be teched against. Like you can play like Shift Big Tinkerbell, you can play Mulans, you can like play like a deck that has like a ton of like item removal. Like you can beat this deck, like if you want to, right? But like, is it ever gonna break like 10% of the meta game? Are you ever gonna like be like staring at those cards when you're like facing like Blurple and like Sea Dogs or like
Here's what I think.
Maybe, I don't know.
I think in Milwaukee there are going to be a lot of good players playing the deck. It's not a casual like hey, I'm going to a DLC. This is the deck I'm taking. It won't happen with that kind of player, right? Because that average player is not really going to know how to play this deck successfully. But your top players, I think, they're going to be quite a few. And I won't say more than Blurple, and I won't say more than Baja Blast or Amber Steel or even Purple Steel, right? But we might be in a rock, paper, lizard, scissors, Spock meta now. So, but
an increase in this deck at least.
And it's like one of those things, you tech for it, then you like forget about it, and if it shows up and you're not ready for it, then like it's one of those things. But yeah, they can tech against us, they can play item removal. I know it's a it's a talking point for us, right? Like there are possibilities like to really tech against this, but in my opinion, like this, I don't know, maybe I'll always like think of this as a fringe deck, but I don't know if it is a significant enough chunk of the metagame to really tech like more than like a card or two out of your 60. And it's one of those things that like you need at the right time. And it's in the end, every deck like does have its ups and downs, as its brick potential, as its weaknesses, but I think it's proving itself as like something you can play, and it's a reasonable choice.
Yeah, I think that this is it's not. I don't think it's fringe anymore. I think it poked its head up high enough at Bologna that it lost that label. So, enough people are playing around with it on Lorcanito to the point that I am seeing, the binges and the things like this. Not that they're
Yep.
mainstream yet, but when you start seeing those, then you know that the deck now has enough. It's visual enough now that just as you said, people are like, well, I got a tech for that doggone Chromicon, which tells you how powerful the card is when they're freaking including cards like that to deal with one card, right? So
It's true. It's true. And I also think dogs players are playing it sometimes, although I
yes,
think Chromicon is not good in the dogs deck, and I think more people are going to just be off of it,
yeah,
and kind of go more into like the under the sea version, which is better for us. But it's it's one of those things, like, yeah, like, definitely online, it's hard to say like how much of like that, like the online ladder community will like dictate like what's being played at like DLC Milwaukee or like
right,
any DLC, right? It's tough to say, right? Because people kind of you have all kinds of and it's less commitment too, like what are you gonna like actually bring to like a big tournament like that? Like it changes depending on like a lot of things, but right at the end of the day, like we we can still like tech against item removal by like keeping the extra Chromicon, right? Oftentimes where
yep,
we would discard it, maybe we keep the extra one. Like oftentimes like they're not gonna have like the second one, and like the Benja is like a 2 cost 3/3. Like it's not. I mean, Purple Steel was already like good against us. Like it's our worst matchup, right? So like the fact that they're like putting a Benja in is kind of funny to me. It's
yeah,
like you don't really need it, right? The purple sapphire, the blurple wasabi makes more
mhm.
sense to me, obviously, because like that is like it is a
That's
deck
their
that,
worst matchup.
but
So
at
somebody
the,
somewhere playing Purple Steel lost to this deck, and that's why Ben's is showing up.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But like, it's like I really don't think that you can reasonably like devote more than one card out of your 60 to like to a wasabi, and like again, they have to have it at the right time. We can tech by like keeping an extra Chromicon instead of like discarding the second one to like Bobby Mulan and stuff. Like we can still like play with that in mind. Like we can adapt as well, and I think that like people can realize that too. Like we also have agency, like, and we and you know an opponent can't reasonably like totally like warp their deck to beat this deck like at at a large tournament. Like they're not like it's not like I don't think, look, if this ever like zooms to like a 30% share of the
Mhm.
meta game, I probably wouldn't be playing this
I
deck
think
anymore.
I
Like
think the way people tech for it is they treat it like any other aggro deck that they're already teching for, right?
yeah.
The exception being the Chromicon, which is why I think those cards show up, because they're go like, oh well,
Yeah.
I can't. They realize I can't really treat it like any other aggro deck because I can't just run into those characters and get rid of them while the Chronicon's on the board. And I'll tell you one thing I love about a Chromicon, and I talked about this till I blew in my face with my friends here, back here at home. One of my favorite things about the Chromicon is the brain power it makes my opponent use in a matchup. Like, it's like I love, like, in game one, you're already wasting brain cells that even if I go to a game three, I got an advantage because I already know how I'm going to play with the card. They don't. I pretty much probably already know how I'm going to play against their deck, So, but if you make your opponent sit there and stop and now count and do math and
Mhm.
figure things out, which card, if I attack, is he going to bounce? And do they have this guessing game? So that means I got a quest with this one. And, I take all the time you want wasting those brain cells. I appreciate that about the card more than anything. So,
Yeah, being able to interact, I feel, just with their board on their turn just feels so good. And it's just something that we don't see in Lorcana right now. So I
mhm.
feel like it is a little off-putting to some people, and they just aren't ready for it.
Yep.
Yeah, and bouncing your dock when they expected you to like bounce their like genie or something like
They're
is
like, oh
also
no.
like totally
What
busted. Like they can make a bad mistake that loses them the game on the spot. Like
Hmm.
I dropped
too,
a
but yeah.
I had 6 ink the other day and I dropped a go-go and gained 4 lore off of it and dropped a dock. and I had one other character on the board, and I drew past turn, and I had quested with the other character, and they ran into the other character, probably guessing I was going to bounce my dock back. No, I bounced the go back.
Yep.
Yeah,
and then
good.
and then
Great
ran the
bounce
dock. I had another two. I think another Mulan ran it into their character to get the 2 extra damage on it, so I'd gain an extra lore out of it. When I played the go-go, and yeah, it was nice. So I dropped a go-go and got I think I got 5 off of a Hades the other day. Yeah, it was go-go's
Hades.
underrated bounce. And then somebody wanted to enable the chat on Lorcanarama, and he goes, I totally missed that you could return your own go-go. I go, I was counting on it,
I don't realize that.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's really strong, and in the guide there's I kind of describe a suite of offensive and defensive cards, and go-go obviously being one of the offensive cards. It's lore reach, in the same way that Philip and Heathcliff are. Yeah, also Prince Philip is a great bounce target too. Like if they ever banish anything besides the Philip, you can have Doc and Philip in play in the late game and quest with both of them, because what do they banish? Do they banish the Philip and let me replay the Doc? Do they banish the Doc and let me replay the Philip and get another guaranteed 2 war? It's it creates some no-win situations for opponents as well. But yeah, the offensive cards can be really strong in that regard. We have some inevitability in that in that late game as well, and just as important are the defensive cards, the Lewis, the Calhoun, the Captain Hooks, the Jafar. Lewis being an all-star in this deck, and I definitely want to talk about Lewis, because Lewis was a slightly later addition. That first tournament that I played, where Chris Tea Time, reverse engineered the deck and played it at CCS. The Lewis wasn't in that deck, but the Lewis was a soon addition after, and so was Fire the Cannons actually. Some fundamental cards that we're missing, but it should just goes to show how powerful the core of the engine, the core of the deck was also. And also none of the players saw this coming. Nobody knew how to play around Chromacon too. So it was yeah. But the Lewis is really important because it's such an important card versus aggro, and a good rule of thumb, and something that I explain in the guide too, as far as matchups and stuff, is that if a deck has Amethyst or Sapphire in its makeup, then you are the beatdown, with Steel Emerald. And if the opponent has Amber in the deck, then you are the control player. And it is just pretty as simple as that. So Amber Steel and Amber Emerald, we are the control player, and versus Blurple, versus Purple Steel, and versus Green Blue, Emerald Sapphire, we are the aggro. We're the beatdown player, right? So but Lewis and Calhoun and Captain Hook, Fire the Cannons, Strength the Raging Fire off of Pete or Prince Philip, or all of these cards are really important, because we actually play a very powerful control game that's also facilitated by Doc, and we don't really need to use the bounce Chromacon sort of plan, because eventually we can play it and it works and everything, right? But we don't need it. It's never required in those matchups, so you could actually just discard the Chromacon pretty often against an Amber deck in favor of cards like Lewis, which Lewis being important because it not only stops questing, but it creates a situation where the opponent can either let you 2-for-1 against it, or they can play some sort of pump effect, to get the card to trade with Lewis, or whatever it is, right? Sometimes Lewis isn't as good against Captain Hook or Calhoun, but the Lewis is really important against those decks with Daisies and Tianas and stuff like that.
Tianas feel so good.
Yeah.
And also what it can do is it can help you win races. It can stop opponents' genies from questing, yes, they can play a Dumbo and but there are situations where you can play Lewis to stop opponents from being able to quest to like beat you in a race as well. Like, so Lewis can be an important part of that. Or like with your Chromacon in play, with like playing a Lewis, it's like they have a choice. It's like, oh, am I going to 2-for-1 to get myself against this, or am I going to banish the Lewis and get, and allow a Chromacon trigger? So Lewis is a very, very like important and techie card, and is huge like against Amber decks. Like, you keep as many Lewis as you can, like against Amber decks. Like Calhoun, Hook being important there too, like as kind of like a like a 1-2-3. Really great cards.
So, go ahead, Jake.
I just had a really quick question. One of the things that I did, I actually played this deck at my local set championships. I didn't do too great, but I had a really good time with the deck, and I thought that the deck was really good. And my second round, I actually was matched up against an Emerald Steel Mirror, and I thought that was something I didn't expect, honestly, especially going into it. But is there anything like you could do to like navigate that, knowing that Go-Go is like one of your main kind of sources for offensive, and there's not a lot of huge butts on the mirror, and even if you're trying to hit it on like Philip or Heathcliff, it's a ward too. Is there anything like crazy you could kind of like maybe even mulligan for, or know that you want to do again in the mirror?
There's a possibility Go-Go, like, kind of, the thing is, Go-Go's nice like against mainly the control decks. Like, it's really powerful against green blue, because like they can't like use Bell on their characters. Like, their characters like oftentimes just like have damage sitting on them for like turns. And it's powerful in Blurple as well, although obviously they can use the Bell, so you got to watch out for that. But in the mirror, I would say the most important cards are Calhoun, Lewis, Captain. You're playing Fire the Cannons. You're playing it more or less like a like the steel or any aggro deck that you'd be fighting against, right? It's I've also found that like playing against like other people online who have who are playing this deck, which I'll always always try to be like, hey, are you on the Discord? Do you how do you like the deck? I always like it's like
Pick their brain.
it's now it's like I'm used to it, but definitely seeing this deck online when it started to kind of filter in, and like seeing people like play my deck, and like
That's my deck.
it's like, oh, that's yeah, I've also found that like the Chromacon almost never matters in the mirror. Like, I oftentimes just like don't want to play it, and I just want to kind of race them instead, but like also like play cards like Calhoun and Lewis, because they're like incredibly powerful at like freezing my opponent's board too. And like, if you play with Chromacon, you should kind of know like what to like what to look for and what not to. Like, like what are the advantageous or disadvantageous plays like for opponents. Like, we know what we want them to do and what we don't want them to do, right? So like, you want to just like try to like more or less like do the thing in that turn that you wouldn't want the opponent to do to you, right? Using like the cards that you have at your disposal. But like, challenging can be okay, like if they get the jump on you, right? If at the end of the day, like if they if they're on the play and they have a really aggressive start, and they have like the turn 3 Chromacon, and we kind of have like a bricky hand, it can go their way, right? But the power cards are definitely Calhoun and Lewis. And Fire the Cannons can make a big difference in the early turns before the Chromacon is played, right? Because if you like open with your own Merfolk and Fire the Cannons plus other 1-drop, you can really turn the tables as well.
I'll suggest this in the mirror match, and as if you're playing against this deck as well too, don't play your characters if you're planning on challenging. Just challenge first if the Chromacon's
and then keep all your income.
You'd be surprised at how many people just do that. And it's the same in the mirror match, right? And like, one of the ways you could deal with the mirror match is, okay, I got a couple characters down, they got the Chromacon out. If I kill some of theirs, they're going to bounce something back. So what do I do? Okay, do whatever you're going to do with your character. Quest with your Merfolk. Okay, make sure you take care of that first, right? Decide whether or not you're going to remove with which character, at which point decide what you're going to do with the other character, and what I try and do is I'm like, sometimes I bluff, and just see what they'll bounce back. But a lot of times I've done it with a Fire to Cannons in the hand, let them go ahead and do what they're going to do. And then you unload a fire of cannons, and now there's nothing for them to bounce back. And then you play your characters, right? And so there's ways to do it. Zach did it against me when we played on Lorcanarama. And so I've done it against others. It happened. So
sequencing is crazy important, and you also make sequencing like utterly important for the opponent as well, even more so because they don't get to choose what's bounced the Chromicon. We do, right?
Right.
So, it's really strong. Like you said, like doing your stuff first, like before you spend your ink. I love it. Like, it's like, yeah, brother, play your genie before you challenge.
I love bouncing genie back. I'm like, you can have all. That's right.
Do you want to replay that for it? Sure.
Well, it's like I don't care how many cards they got in their hand; they're not on the board. So,
exactly right. Exactly right. And that's the thing. It's that's why this is a tempo deck, right? Because we are able to create like game states where it doesn't matter how many cards they have in their hand. It doesn't matter, like, like obviously if they have like a crazy amount of ink and like, if it gets to like the super late game and like we had an unlucky game, like it can be like that, right? But like, we are fundamentally able to like put more to board than the opponent is able to like respond to because of the Chromicon, like, always bouncing back. And if you're going to play big clunky characters like Elsa, like that costs 5, like a Blurple player cannot win by playing Elsa for 3 turns in a row, like, because you're not able to like Elsa and then like Bell the next turn and still have the Elsa in play. Like you're not able to do that because the Elsa is going to be bounced back every turn. And like, it's okay that like they are replaying Genie and drawing a card. It's okay that they're replaying Elsa and like, contextually, like, because, you might want to like not bounce the Elsa at a certain point, like if maybe it only has like 1 or 2 damage on it and you want to keep your dock in play because like you want to, be able to like bounce the dock, like if they banish something else and they don't have like a Hades, or if it's the turn before they can play Hades, like things like that. Like, it's all contextual. It's all like you have to like make a lot of evaluative decisions in the moment. A lot of times it can just be correct to just bounce stock every single time that you're able to, right? Because you're able to just like keep overwhelming the board. And it's also important to continue to like be able to like play dock or like find more dock or like bounce your dock, because opponents are going to like, or control opponents are going to be able to banish our characters. So we're going to be continually losing characters. So we need to be able to replenish, right? We don't have protection like Tiana, where it's totally preventing, the characters from being challenged. We have to, replenish the characters. We need to keep playing the characters to board because the challenging is actually what activates all this, right? So, bouncing the dock is really important. I've even like kept additional docks like against control players, like playing like the dock and then like playing the second dock to draw cards, or like even like earlier in the game just playing a dock for like playing a dock out in an earlier turn if I have to, but I have another dock in hand, and just opting to like not draw off that dock to keep the dock I have and play it on a later turn, because it's so good to like the dock being played even without drawing cards, like is still a piece of value because I can bounce that dock with the Chromicon and replay it. So Bruno said in like an interview, I was like watching through subtitles, it's like we have 6 dock in this deck, is and through Bobby and Mulan it's also like really powerful. Like those cards, I can't speak highly enough of Bobby and Mulan in this deck.
So
sorry.
Go ahead, Zach. I mean, yeah, Jake. We're nearing.
I just wanted to add something. I know we're towards the end, but on the thought of bouncing the dock a million times, I have actually played against another Emerald Steel player that was there. There were 3 that day, and they played Family Fishing Pole that day.
I've seen that too. And
I didn't know if that was a part of your metafire or whatever like that, if that was a secret tech card, but I don't know. It seemed like it was pretty decent to be able to like bounce the dock back to your hand and then just gain 2 lore off of it.
I see the merit of it. I've played with it a little bit. I've played like a couple. The only thing is it's really situational. Like you already have to have so many good like things going for you. Like, it's
maybe even win more.
To just like try to like use our like Bobbies and Mulans and like draw through our deck to like try to like find more docks and like try to like play a card like that, or like just like play aggressively and force them to like have to respond to our board. Like the thing is about Family Fishing Pole is it comes in play exerted, right? It, like you know it's like kind of depressing when you like are just trying to like draw like a body, like you're trying to draw like a questing character, and like you have the fishing pole. Like it can't be too bad to like run like one of them and like because it's inkable and everything, but I have found like recently that like the margins, like it's really hard to like include like everything I want with like the defensive and offensive suite. So I personally think that Family Fishing Pole is too situational, but it's a card you can run, and I just think that like we want to be trying to like play less situational cards and play like more like
More of the
cards
core.
yeah, exactly. We're trying to
Yep,
play
for
cards that
sure.
are like good, like offensively, good defensively, and not cards that are like, oh, what if they are not challenging me and I want to bounce my dock? Like, it sounds good, but like, we want to avoid anything that's too gimmicky, too cute, like to really focus in. Like right now, like in more recent lists, like we're playing like two like of the three drop Clarabelle, but we're not playing any of like the 7-drop Clarabelle, because the 3-drop Clarabelle we can often orchestrate to like be able to draw
Get that card.
it. And it's just like enough, like a little bit of extra like card filter and card draw to like try to find more dock. But at the end of the day, what I learned from Bruno's list and like what he took here, and I think the next kind of big innovation of this deck after like including Lewis and like for a little while I was on like the 4-cost Donald Duck. But the thing is like that kept like getting banished by like by stuff like before drawing a card. It kept getting Hades and stuff. What I really found like and learned from Bruno's list is that you don't need any other card draw besides stock. Like Amber Steel does fine without any other card draw. Like Doc is fine, and also because of Bobby and Mulan, because of like you put a couple 1-drop three drop Clarabelle in there. Like there have been versions of this where I've played Improvise as additional card draw, but it's also it's not really needed as much. But just like having the Bobby and Mulan to like filter and like be able to like see more cards in your deck and like just like be able to like play your docks and like bounce your dock and everything, like you don't really need like anything but the dock plus the core of the deck, and that's like the big thing I learned from Bruno in this. It's like, oh, like we can rely on this card, like we can get there because the core of the deck becomes better if we're not trying to like play essentially subpar cards to try to supplement it. Like we can just play the deck and make it and have a plan for our matchups.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is where I have to cut us off.
Sorry, we could talk all night.
Yeah, we can, and I'd love to. We have an hour time block that we kind of stick to, and especially with me
No
tonight,
worries.
with the, just kind of got a little one I gotta kind of peel off for. One thing now, I gotta let you know, Zach, I'm gonna put something up on the screen. We play a little game here on our stream, and you get to be the victim of it, right? So I'll wait till you can see it on the screen. So I've got a card up and its rules text is missing. Let me know when you can see it.
Ooh, yeah, I see it.
Okay, now everybody knows what the 3/2 2-cost uninkable bonsai does, right? It just quests for 2 and gets killed by Rafiki without killing Rafiki back, right? So that's it. All right, so the question is, in this case, and this let me tell you what this is inspired by. I played a game of a pack rush with my friend, and I left my glasses at home, and I thought I knew Lorcana cards, and I couldn't read the text on them, so I'd have to hold. I was like, well, at least if I know the picture, I'd know what to do. But there were some obscure cards that I just had not really paid attention to, and I had to hold it up in a game of pack rush and ask my opponent, what does this card do? Because I can't read it. And and so what we do is we take the rule text out and we challenge our guests to see if they can figure it out. So let me read this out for those who are just listening. We got Bonsai, who is taunting hyena, who is a 2-cost inkable emerald card with 2 strength and 2 willpower. He is a Storyborn ally hyena. Zach, do you know what this bonsai does? It's a tough one, right?
Yeah. I want to say it's taunting hyena. I want to say something about it. It's got to have something to do with like reckless.
Okay.
And probably it being an emerald card and like an emerald card that like nobody plays. It probably has something to do with damaged characters.
Right.
That's a good.
Yeah, right.
So I want to say it's like something like it gives like a damaged character reckless for
Okay.
a turn, like until until
Jake,
the
you
start.
want to take a stab at it? Jake's like,
I
wait a minute,
really
I'm
couldn't even
immune.
guess.
I'm
I
not
have
the
no
guest.
idea.
All right, here we go. Let's pop it up. Pew! When you here,
Exert.
kitty. When you play this character, you may
Ooh.
exert chosen damage character.
I was gonna say exert. Damn. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So that's
Well,
all
it's
right.
damaged character. You knew something
Yeah,
about
that's
that.
right.
I knew
You're
it had
halfway
something.
there with it, right? Right. Way to think through it.
It's like all these cards that like, oh, we would play this if like it wasn't so narrow.
If it
like,
wasn't, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
it's,
what I have up on the screen is I have Zach's contact information, and we will put this as well on the in the description of the video. Tongue tied right now. So we got your Instagram handle, fast Action Hamlet, with the dots in there. Your X account at Action_Hamlet, and of course your Metafy page where they can subscribe and buy that guide. So yeah, we got a chat. Nightmare69 before we go. Huge fan of this deck. Reminds me of the Amethyst Steel Doc Aggro build with the bouncing. Anywhere I can find some more gameplay of this deck. Yeah, I think so. Bruno. Gameplay, DLC Bologna was on stream against Cherna Dogs. Well, Sea Dogs now. So there is that. You could find that. Zach, do you know of any other video of gameplay with this deck that's out there?
it's probably gone by now because I think after 2 weeks they wiped them. But I know that Tea Time, Chris Triona was playing it at the CCS and he was on stream playing it. Yeah. Not really right now. I would love
But we
to
got
like
a mission in, right? You got to make some videos.
Yeah, I'd love to try to get some of that up on the guide if I can. It's tough because I've kind of have to figure out like a webcam situation, but you
Yeah.
know, maybe with a couple of my teammates we can make that a project. But yeah, and I want to say like, yeah, definitely for Lorcana content, visit my Metafy. I've been meaning to post a little more on X. I believe I linked my guide, when I first posted it, but yeah, I don't have as much social media presence on those. So definitely, if you're looking for like the main hub, like check out the Metafy, check out the guide. I'm always updating it and just making sure that that's up to code and it's got the latest information. I'm always thinking about this. We're always discussing. Join the Discord. Free to join. It's a great hub for just talking about the deck, asking questions. We have a lot of people that have been really into it, like for a little over a month now. Yeah, just come talk to us and join the excitement. It's a really cool deck. It's a lot of fun. It's really hard to play. It can be punishing, but just stick with it. It's it's different and like just come to your matchups with like a plan with knowledge and you'll find that you can really squeeze out a lot of wins with this deck.
It's a fun deck to play. We'll put the information for the Discord as well in the description of the video. When it goes to YouTube, we'll post that link as soon as we get the video uploaded. I'd like to thank everybody in the chat. If you haven't, please follow us. Just so you know we're here. We just appreciate it. I don't get anything for it other than it makes me feel good and makes me want to keep doing this. Hopefully Sabrina will be back next week. I know we will be back next week on the stream. It will be our last stream before DLC Milwaukee, where I will be going and I will be judging. And I believe Sabrina may or may not be going. I don't know. She just went to Bologna, but we'll see some other friends there. If you guys come to Milwaukee, DLC Milwaukee, you don't watch next week, which I don't know why you wouldn't watch next week. Just come say hi to me. I'll be on the floor. You see my face now. You know what I look like. Okay. Just say hi. We get a picture together. If you listen to the stream, I'd like to do that. And Mike, I see you in the chat. Hopefully I'll be there this Saturday. I don't know, but I will get my picture with you. And we'll get it posted next week. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Jake, got any parting comments?
Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us today. I'm glad we were able to talk Emerald Steel.
Yeah.
And Zach, thank
congrats and shout out to Bruno Hink. Really chill, really awesome guy. Thank you for crediting me. Like, he didn't have to even do that. His change to the deck, you could even have like called it his own, right? But definitely like a really, really cool guy, and been talking to him, and like the deck is still live. He just won his set champs with it over the last weekend, and
perfect.
Really, really great guy, and really
not going anywhere.
It has a lot of room for tweaking. So
representative of this archetype.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Zach, for being willing to come on and talk about this tonight. And you're always welcome back. And when this wins DLC Milwaukee, we'll have you come back and talk about it then, even though you may not be playing it. So, we'll get whoever's playing it to do it. Actually, I know I have a feeling I know which deck's going to win it. I'm just not going to say it right now. And the person's going to win it. I got every bit of faith in my teammates. So, all right. We'll see you all next week. Same time, same bat channel.
Thank you.
Peace, folks.
See ya.